man doth not live by bread only, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord doth man live. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth.
All right. Welcome back, family. What a blessing. Great blessing and honor it is to have some of you guys joining us in these interesting, chaotic last days. The chaos is by design. And we will be talking about that chaos that they're going to try to make order out of, that order out of chaos aspect. It's been on my heart, and I've been thinking about all the things I see whenever I turn on. Actually, I don't turn on the news. I'll correct myself there. I don't turn on the news. But when I see people talking about the news, and the things seem so gloomy and dark, and you see, the government shut down, and people talking about losing their assistance for food, their way of eating, and so things are going to get crazy. Don't go out of your house, and all of those things. I want to talk about some of the design behind that aspect in the creation of chaos. Try to put you guys at peace, because it is overwhelming, all the things that are going on. If you just sit and doom scroll through all the hurricanes and flooding and all this stuff, it can be overwhelming. And so we need to be united in the joy and peace that we have, in spite of all the things that they're trying to do to bring about the end times, because our Father's will is going to be done. Revelation is going to unfold. And if they're acting like it's unfolding, we need to be understanding that it is, and we need to be prepared for what is next. And as we are seeing the deceptions growing, hopefully you guys can hear us. Before I keep talking, make sure you guys can actually hear what we're saying. We are blessed to be back. I do want to give a quick update. We went to TruthorCon this past weekend, and my goodness, it was an abundant blessing. It was something so amazing. And the people there, they were just humble truth seekers in the crowd. The presenters were all extremely humble and polite and kind. We got to fellowship with people in person, which is rare nowadays. And it was awesome. Jeremiah Skiba and Jake Grant and their amazing wives and volunteers and family members did a great job putting that on. You can talk to people. Don't take my word for it. Anybody that was there will probably say the same. I was blown away by the presentations, and I was excited about mine. I thought the stuff I was going to say was just going to blow everything away, but I kind of went towards the end, and everybody was like, yeah, we've seen enough. It was amazing, the stuff that was shown and the stuff that we got to share. I'm hoping they will eventually upload it to YouTube. If not, they say it's going to be on their Patreon page. And if they let us share it, I will at least share my presentation if I can find it. And so it was a powerful adventure, but it was fun getting to ride down there with Mikey, Jenny, and his little Prius. That thing gets great gas mileage, and coming back together, it was fun. Lots of fun. So it's supposed to be 4 of us riding down together. It ended up just being me and him. My brother couldn't go. His wife ended up not going. And so fun journeys, fun travels. Looks like we have some awesome people here joining us. I saw Beverly was just in our study, and Antonio. Good to see you guys. We have our little fellowship every Sabbath where we talk about the word with hungry true soldiers. And my goodness, it's a blessing learning from some wise brothers and sisters out there in the world. And so, yeah, someone said, Josh, you're being exposed. Josh, you're being exposed. Symbolism will be their downfall. You got bricks in the background. Yeah, I got bricks in the background. Yeah, that's obvious. Obvious Masonic stuff there. Yeah. Black and white tiles. I don't have those. Bricks are where we draw the line in the truth community, it seems. But blessed to have you, even if you think I'm a Mason. I'm not. I'm all about exposing those who take secret counsel. If you got to see our presentation, you would see about that. Woe to those who take secret counsel. I don't do that and have no part in that. So you can have your own beliefs, though. Just be careful with what you're saying, accusations, because people in the truth community can be easily led astray. Got the legendary Ron Hagberg here. What a man. What a blessing have you here joining us, brother. And so, yeah, great stuff, interesting stuff to talk about. I'm wanting to talk about, of course, the chaos they're creating, why they're creating it, how demonic it is. I don't have long. I've only got a little bit over an hour, so I'll try to wrap this up pretty quick. Looks like we have more people joining. We're in the triple digits finally. Awesome. All right, let me add to the stage the presentation so we can talk about these things. I'm just going to summarize it because I know you guys hear things all the time about 3i Atlas and all the stuff that they're putting out there in the news and social media, and there's just so many different takes on this stuff. People are going crazy about it. It's a UFO, it's a mothership, it's this, it's that. What's the deal? Well, they have to have a cover story for things that are going to happen. And so 3i Atlas being one of those things, they got to have a cover story for stuff coming down from above. We know when the stars begin to fall, it's too late. Their little cover stories aren't really going to fit the make too much of a difference. But 3i Atlas is something that I started hearing about, and I really, honestly, as much as I've looked into the firmament and all these things, the properties of the lights up in the heavens that our Father put there for signs and seasons, or appointed times, I should say, better fits the description of what they're there for. But for appointed times, and in these last days, we're seeing some unique things happen in the firmament. And so you can see there's a picture here of what they call 3i Atlas. At least they say it's a photo. I'm not going to say this is authentic. It was from a news website saying that it was authentic, that one of their observatories spotted it. And I don't doubt a light like this in the firmament is impossible. I believe this is possible, especially since the globe model doesn't predict something like this happening, to where you can see the stars moving that are, trillions of miles away. And yet this object that they say is 167 miles away is seen being stationary. The way that makes no sense is when you think about parallax. Distant objects don't move as much when you're moving. Something closer to you will appear to move greater. Like trees right next to your car are going to move way faster for your observation than a mountain in the distance. And so right here you have what they call an interstellar object, something that has broken into our solar system from another one and come here. And they say this is the third object to ever do that. And the first one happened in 2017. So 3 times in recorded history, and it's all within the last decade or so. That's interesting. And so that's what they say this is, something that's, millions of miles away, but getting close to the distance of the sun. And now they say it's behind the sun, I believe. I haven't really kept up with where they say this deception is now, but that's what they claim this thing is. And its name, Atlas, caught my attention because Atlas is a false deity holding up the firmament, not a globe like I was taught growing up. I was always taught that this figure was holding up a globe Earth, and all the paintings and cartoons I saw were that. But according to their Greek mythology, after the clash of these titans, which I believe is based on the Nephilim fighting it out before the flood, there was a binding, but it was the punishment. Angels were binding them. They weren't binding each other, but, of course, one of them would want to have, the ultimate say and be worshipped as a deity who's got all this authority. And so they'll craft their own little stories. But that is what Atlas actually is, a deity holding up the firmament according to their legend, not a globe. And so the biblical Earth model would be wrapped up inside this. Not 100% biblical because it is, the Greek aspect to it as well. But that's not where that name Atlas came from. For this, though, they call it that because they say that the 3 is for it being the third interstellar object discovered, I for interstellar, and Atlas for the asteroid terrestrial impact last alert system. They got to have their own alert system so they can control the narrative. If something wants to fall down, let's say if wormwood were literal, they have to have their narrative trying to get people to war against God Almighty. You have to have your own narrative, with these threats from above being peak interest in these last days by design. And so just a quick look at the Greek mythology aspect again with Atlas. Zeus was the one who punished him after their clash of the Titans to hold up the heavenly sphere, celestial sphere of the firmament. Here's pictures of the other 2 lights that so-called entered our solar system, they say. The first one in 2017, and that name, just trying to pronounce it. I was trying to pronounce it a minute ago. Almu. I don't even know how to say it. Almu 2017. Sounds funny. It was a comet, they said, Hawaiian for messenger. Angels, messengers. Became the first interstellar object ever detected in the solar system in 2017, followed by the comet Borisov in 2019. As per Atlas, that part of the name is derived from, of course, what we just told you, that big word, that alert system. And it was the first to, the one, where was it at? Let's see, a NASA funded one, guess where? In Chile, I believe. Telescope was the first one to spot this thing. And so that is interesting that we're funding things in other places like Chile. Let's skip to the important stuff. Now, how is this weird? Well, when I'm learning about 3i Atlas and what's going on, they're saying that more people are signing the Artemis Accord. What is the Artemis Accord? Well, it reminds me a lot of the Antarctic Treaty, where you have people coming together for peaceful purposes. It says here, principles for a safe and peaceful, peace and safety, safe. They didn't want to put it in that order. They're like, we'll put safe first. They won't notice. Peace and safety. I mean, safe and peaceful and prosperous future in something that they literally made up in modern times with their people who take secret councils. And so you have the Artemis Accords being involved. And where this ties in to wormwood, I believe, again, this is just what I believe, is when you're looking into Artemis, NASA's latest mission is Artemis. They now have the Artemis Accords, where people are signing up to agree to do things peacefully, to align for a purpose, as if they are aligning for a threat from above. They want to be peaceful about it. They're going to, there's only so many things they do peacefully, world powers with other world powers. Faking of space, guarding of Antarctica, corrupting all flesh, and now we're seeing, the protecting of space and all of the threats and preparing for a threat from above together peacefully. It makes sense. It's by design. Now, in Revelation 8, verses, I believe, 8 through 11, so I can see my screen here, it says, and the second angel sounded, and as it were, a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood, and the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed, and the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. Now, whether this is literal or prophetic, sounds like they're trying to prepare for something like that. And it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star is called wormwood. And so I started looking into wormwood last year and found out that the scientific name for wormwood is Artemisia. Where does that come from? It comes from the name Artemis, the Greek goddess Artemis. So they have the Artemis missions, where they have their little capsules. I guess it's called the Orion capsule, I believe. But it's splashing down into the waters, trying to mimic the stuff of Revelation. I'm not saying that the Artemis mission is wormwood, but they are aware of these things. The scientific name for wormwood being Artemisia, coming directly from that name. And Artemis is talked about in the book of Acts. They were dealing with these same demonic powers that we are dealing with today. When Paul is going around spreading this gospel message, he's dealing with people who worship Artemis. When we're going around spreading the truth now, we're dealing with powers who are naming their missions after these deities of old, these unclean spirits. And it says here, this is from Acts chapter 19, the city clerk quieted the crowd and said, fellow Ephesians, because these are like the people that are making the idols. They're getting upset because imagine your job is you make idols, false deities for people to worship, and now people are learning about the true God. You're running out of business. You're running out of clientele. You gotta do something to scare away these people who are teaching the truth. So he says, fellow Ephesians, doesn't all the world know that the city of Ephesus is the guardian of the temple of the great Artemis and of her image? Which, what happened? Where did Artemis's image come from? Fell from heaven, they say, according to their legend. Therefore, since these facts, sounds like a lot of the false science teachers today, are undeniable, That's what they say about their false beliefs. You ought to calm down and not do anything rash. Yeah, like don't find deliverance and truth and miracles and healing and all that. Keep worshiping these false deities. You have brought these men here, though they have neither robbed temples nor blasphemed our goddess. And so they were there being peaceful. Our father's people going in there. So they couldn't make accusations like, hey, they're breaking the place apart, which they should have. They had every right to go in there and smash their statues and do all that. But they were trying to bring these people out of Babylon, bring them out of Egypt, take them with them. And it causes quite a scene. That's why you see persecution following. These people are not happy when you try to take away their demonic deceptions. And speaking of those demonic deceptions, everyone, what we grew up loving, NASA, we didn't realize their missions are all named after these deities, including the last and latest one, Artemis. They're planning to go back to the moon, they say, for the first time. One of them was like, yeah, we're going to be going to the moon for the first time. Woo. We're like, whoa, how'd that slip out? Well, their first ever mission, and you got to imagine if you're creating a government, program that's focused on going upwards, right? Going to space. Why would you name your first mission after someone who's a deity that guides souls to the underworld? And that's what they did with their upside down cross patch for that mission. They said, oh, we're going to name this one after this deity. And then the next one is actually going to be called Atlas. Now we have Three-Eye Atlas. Their next one in 1962 was Atlas. You remember the one holding up the firmament. So you're doing something involved with space, but your first mission is about the god that guides people to the underworld. Your next one is the one holding up a firmament that you're trying to erase. And then they have the sun god Apollo, followed by Artemis. Don't worry, it gets worse. It's going to get a lot worse as we go. That is Artemis in that book. If you read that particular chapter in Acts I was talking about, or that verse, it may not say Artemis, but that's who it's talking about. You have to go to the interlinear. Here we go. Now, just to give you some Greek mythology, because I think a lot of this stuff ties into the Nephilim as well as the Illuminati. They really do pay tribute to these deities, with the owl of Minerva being their actual first logo. It wasn't a pyramid with an eye. It was the owl of Minerva, the owl of Athena. Minerva and Athena are the same. So Athena was born from Zeus's head. This is weird. This stuff gets really weird. Fully grown. So she just had a dad. She didn't have a mom. She came out of his head. Kind of a crazy birth story there, taken away from women. Everybody came from a female. Men couldn't do that. They couldn't give birth, let alone out of their heads. And so that is according to their mythology. I'm not saying this stuff's true. They make this stuff up. These unclean spirits that were worshipped have their own little renditions of their story that they teach to their followers. Now, that's Athena. I'm bringing her up for a reason, or Minerva. Artemis, though, on the other hand, is the twin sister of the sun god Apollo. So we had the sun god missions going to the moon, and now we have a moon goddess, twin sister of Apollo, going back to the moon, tying in all of these things. She has a mother, though. She didn't just come out of his head. Same dad, different mom. Now, the reason I brought up the whole Athena thing is because, of course, with the Illuminati being founded in 1776, a year that they try to have us remember all the time, it was created when the Jesuits and the Freemasons came together. I've said this before, so if you're hearing the same information again, this is for somebody who may be joining who may have absolutely never heard about this stuff, but this stuff did happen. Masonry, of course, goes way back before the 1540s, but the Jesuit order, or I guess the 1500s, but the modern version of it, modern Masonry, they say, was created in 1599. That doesn't mean Masonry itself, and that's what I was mistakenly thinking when I was first laying all this out. That stuff goes probably back to the Tower of Babel, maybe before, when the unclean spirits, or I guess the fallen, were getting their children, their offspring, the Nephilim, to carve everything in stone. And remember, our Messiah is referred to as the stone the builders rejected. Someone brought to my attention, what kind of builders use stones? Masons. Interesting. And so, anyways, back what I was saying, 1776 is when they formed. And so that's something important to understand, is that it was a merger between two societies that keep secret oaths. And they're not the only ones. I'm finding out the royal societies are up there, probably above them, and they just don't get enough credit. And that's why the old earth lie and evolution and dinosaurs all came from the fellows of the Royal Society, the same secret society that controls the scientific dialogue in the world. Everything coming from the UK, which actually was a province of Rome. I found out. I'm like, I need to learn more history. I was never paying attention too much in history class. Now I'm going, wow, history's a lot more interesting when you find out how this stuff ties into Revelation. But anyways, there's their little owl that of Minerva that is still to this very day in a coin in Greece, or on the coin, and it has been for over 2,500 years. They care so much for these things, these deities of old, that they don't even change their coin for 2,500 years BC. Crazy. Oop, there's just the information, because I looked this up. Was the owl depicted on the Greek coins? You know, I always ask Google as if they're going to be reliable. But yes, it's the same owl of Athena. It was the owl of the Illuminati. And now when you go to Nashville, there's a shrine, a rebuilt temple in Nashville to this same deity whose owl was for the Illuminati. She's got her giant serpent and shield. Good friend Mikey Jenny went down there and took video of this stuff. It just seems fake. Like there's no way this is real, but they're recreating this stuff. It's important to them. Straight out of Rome. Look at the crown. Does those little crowns look familiar? Like the UN logo, the Roman flag. What do they call those? Coronas, maybe? I think that was the goddess Nike. About to give her that. Could be wrong. This is when they were building that satanic. I mean, it's all satanic. But there's the replica. Rebuilding this stuff, not for the sake of art. I never thought, man, I like art. Let me just make a giant Roman temple. Put in a deity there. Little children out in front of this construct playing on a dragon, riding on the back of a dragon. Look at that. Sadness. That's why they call Nashville the Athens of the South. And I didn't realize, and this is not against anybody that lives in Nashville. There's some good people in Nashville, but we went there for a reunion, a college reunion with our teammates. One of our friends got into music and wanted us to come down there and watch him sing and stuff. And I had no clue what I was walking into. When we got there, it was like Sin City. It was awful. I was like, whoa. It was a weird feeling being in that place. I was trying to make sure we were staying prayed up, walking down those streets, looking around, and it just seemed like people were so lost and so distracted by all the lights and the music and the drinking and all that. Sad. But here is where our taxpayers' dollars go. You know, we talked about that being the Illuminati symbol. Well, they're not the only ones. In 1776 doing stuff, they were constructing D.C., which, remember, the actual where the Capitol building sits, it was called Rome, Maryland. And the owner was a man named Francis Pope. And so now we have that Capitol. They've reconstructed it to be shaped like an owl, most likely the same owl, similar to the one that's at the Groves, the Bohemian Groves. But it's that owl on top of a pyramid, or the pyramid's kind of like right smack dab in its center right there, almost like it goes into its chest. It's right on top of it with both of its owl eyes on top of that thing. And so you can see this stuff is important to the people who allegedly founded the this country on biblical principles. I don't think so. Starting to see otherwise. And their logo, with all this chaos they're creating, because that's what I was wanting to talk about. I was just on my heart. I was like, man, all this chaos they're creating, and this fear of don't leave your house. They're going to rob you of your food because they're taking away all this and doing all that. We have to understand they want the chaos. They're causing these so-called mass shootings everywhere. They're popping up everywhere. I mean, I was scrolling through social media, and it was like mass shooting here, mass shooting there, mass shooting down the road from me, mass shooting over. It was like everywhere. And I'm like, this has never happened in history, that in recent history that I know of, where there's been this type of just all of a sudden, these people who aren't connected are like, hey, let's just go and do this. And it's the same darkness, allegedly, all the time. And so you see these things being significant. And the Latin phrase, this is what really blew my mind, because you see everybody, talking about the eye on top of the pyramid and the Roman numerals. Think about that. In America, what's on our seal? Roman numerals. And it's the year 1776 on an Egyptian pyramid. So you've got Egypt and Rome right there together, kind of like Babylon had a baby there, Rome and Egypt. And you have that saying at the bottom Novus Ordo Seclorum. And it's a Latin phrase for the New Order of the Ages. And it says New Order of the Ages is one of the 2 Latin mottos on the reverse side of the Great Seal of the U.S. So we have a Great Seal, and that's what they chose to put on it. The other motto is Annuit Coeptis, if I'm saying that right. The providence favors our undertakings. Yeah, who's the providence? It doesn't say our Holy Father. It says the providence, probably Rome. The mottos were coined by Charles Thompson, the Secretary of the Congress of the Confederation. Thomas derived the phrase, listen to this, from a poem by the Roman poet Virgil. This is where things get really, really, really dark. He wrote that the phrase signified the beginning of the new American era as of the date of the Declaration of Independence, 1776. Now, this is what I find extremely sad. Here's where that comes from. I'm going to read this. This is dark. That New Order of the Ages comes from this poem right here. This poem is outright satanic. Now is come the last age of the Cumaean prophecy. So it's something talking about prophecy. And this isn't a prophet in the Bible. It's a Roman prophet. Female Roman prophet, prophetess. The great cycle of ages is born anew. Now returns the maid, returns the reign of, not the Most High, Saturn, Satan. Now returns the reign of Saturn. That's what our dollar bill is about right there. When you see underneath that, what that's talking about, this is that man who came up with that, his influence. This is his inspiration, what inspired him. It gets even darker. Listen to this after it talks about the reign of Saturn. Now from high heaven, sounds like the firmament, a new generation comes down. Sounds like the fallen, like they're coming back. Yet do thou at that boy's birth, in whom the iron age shall begin to cease, and the golden to arise over all the world. Holy Lucina, be gracious. Now thine own Apollo reigns. And so you have a reign of Saturn and a reign of Apollo. That's how they brought about the globe deception and fully solidified it, was giving glory to that deity. And these are real people, according to them. They believe in these figures. These are real demonic powers to them. And that's why they are paying tribute to them, writing about them. But Lucina, who it mentions at the very end, is the title of the goddess Juno, and sometimes referred to as Artemis. And they're calling holy. So Artemis coming back again into their worship. And the reason I think that he was influenced by this person is doing things that are spoken of against in the Bible. The person who wrote the prophetess, so to speak, that they talk about in Rome, those Cumaean prophecies. It says the Cumaean Sibyl was a prophetess at the oracle of Apollo in the city of Cumae, located near modern-day Naples. And so the worshiping of those deities, I mean, full circle where we are now with these fake missions from these governmental agencies. The method of prophecy, she is said to have transcribed her prophecies on leaves, which were then arranged in the entrance of her cave. However, when the wind blew, the leaves would scatter, making prophecies difficult to interpret. Yeah, if you're a false prophet, that's what you're going to do. And it says her most famous stories involves her offering 9 books to the king, and eventually he said no. She burned 3 and whatever, and kept happening until there were just a few remaining, 6. They were considered priceless, and the people, it says, these books were highly valued and were consulted in times of crisis or chaos. They're trying to make order out of chaos. That's how their whole creation story came about. It goes against their own so-called laws of thermodynamics, where usually when there's chaos or order, it goes towards chaos. It doesn't go the other way. It doesn't go from chaos to order in nature. And they're like, oh, well, it did with our creation story, but that was the one miracle. And then it continued to do so, going against their own laws. And so this stuff is dark. And that is where they get, let me see if I can go back to it, their phrase on the bottom, the reign of Satan and the reign of Apollo, based on Roman writings on our American currency, mixed with Egypt. I mean, you've just got so many dark things. And they talked about the golden, where was it at? I thought I saw the word golden in here. maybe not. Oh, yeah, there it is. And the second to last line shall cease, and the golden to arise over all the world. So think about golden arising over all the world. And now what are they trying to do? Let there be a golden dome. They're trying to build a golden dome over the U.S. They already had the Iron Dome over the non-biblical Israel. And now they have their golden dome over the U.S. And on top of that, trying to build a triumphal arch. And Trump says in a tweet, I believe, America needs a triumphal arch. What is the triumphal arch? What was the original? The original Arch of Triumph was built during the reign of Emperor Septimius Severus, which lasted from 193 to 211 AD. It linked the main street of the colonnade and the Temple of Bel. And so we need a new one of those, something that connected the people to Bel worship, and we need a new one. I disagree. And that Temple of Bel entrance that you see in the bottom right, my brother brought that to my attention. That was actually a so-called art project where they reconstructed the Temple of Bel and brought it around the world and set it up in significant places during their satanic appointed times. It's dark. They're doing this stuff for a reason. It's not art. It is real to them. And it is extremely, extremely dark, the things that they are doing. And so they're doing these things in these last days for a reason. And with the Apollo and Saturn aspect, these are deities of old. The Nephilim, when you read about them, they were already, for their punishment, devouring mankind and each other. And that's why the paintings of them look like that. To this very day, when you see these old paintings, that's what they look like. This is dark. But their punishment was to fight each other eventually. And these are the people they are worshiping now. The spirits of these Nephilim that have lived on because their punishment was to fight to the death. And Enoch chapter 15 talks about this, and this is about to get really interesting and scientific because we hear about the clash of the Titans in Enoch, how they had to fight it out and fight to the death. And that's what a lot of that Greek mythology is based on. That's where they get a lot of their ideas, and they're worshiping, their false worshiping of false deities and false gods. But Enoch chapter 15 says, of course, after they died, after their punishment, therefore I have not appointed wives for you. For as for the spiritual ones of the heaven, in heaven is their dwelling. And now the giants who are produced from the spirits and flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth, and on the earth shall be their dwelling. Well, my thought was, if this is true, if they had to fight to the death, if there's unclean spirits, if all this stuff is true, and these unclean spirits would know quite a bit of things because they were taught. It says all the secret things that the watchers have disclosed. They taught their sons how to make weapons of war, the beautifying of eyelids, godlessness, which I believe is atheism. Even Satanism is about being godless. Like they don't even believe in a so-called Satan. It's like really weird. It's really weird how they deceive their own followers about so many different things. Fornication, enchantments, root cutting, astrology, lawlessness. We're seeing a rise of that. And I think with AI and the way they're going to market it and make it work, it's going to make lawlessness just go exponential. You're going to be able to do as thou wilt, make your own realities and things like that. I feel like it's going to lead to things far worse than what we've already seen with the content on the internet leading people astray. But they also did things that were extremely demonic that's done today. Smiting of infants in the womb, abortion. That was a big thing that they taught. And they revealed eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn, and they still are. And they will try to pretend they have this wisdom that's going to do something for you, and they're just going to bring you to a grave. And so this is something we talked about at TruthorCon when it comes to the scientific aspect. If Enoch's account is true, if Genesis is true, there were giants in those days, and then afterwards, we're going to find evidence of that. And if they really fought to the death, my thought was, there's going to be evidence on the bones. We would find massive bones with cut marks. Not teeth marks, not claw marks, cut marks. And so I started looking into this, and guess what? They do. They find cut marks on these bones. And some of these creatures, some of these giants of old would have been about 24,000 pounds. They say that's enough to feed like 100 men for months. Like, that's a lot of flesh. And they say, oh, there's cut marks on these creatures. Why is there cut marks? Oh, well, some, cavemen 125,000 years ago with rocks and sticks learning how to make fire after he was, once a fish, turned into a monkey and all that nonsense. This guy kills a 24,000-pound creature with sticks and rocks. Like, think about that. Like, imagine like a grizzly bear weighing 450 pounds being hard to kill at point blank range with a gun. Killing a 24,000-pound creature. Like, that's just such a weight we can't really fathom with today's animals. But there's cut marks on their bones as if they fought to the death, just like the book of Enoch tells us they did as their punishment. They're thoroughly butchered, says certain sources. And some of these cut marks are, they say, from 3.4 million years ago. Really? I mean, look at the teeth marks. The one on the top right, they say those are teeth marks. Remember, the giants in Enoch's account didn't just eat flesh of humans. They turned on each other, these corrupted flesh. And they really did a lot of damage there. And so you're going to see some strange things. They're going to want people to glorify their bones, their false narrative, their new dinosaur narrative that came about thanks to secret societies in the 1800s. We had the Fellows of the Royal Society in the 1800s finding a few little bone fragments and saying, there's dinosaurs, or this is, they gave them names, iguanodon and all. And they came up, they had just a couple different names. And then they had a man coin the term dinosaur. And then, at the same time, evolution in old Earth was coming about. These lies all came about at the same time from the same place. Strange, Prior to that, I think the first known alleged historic mention of giants was a man in the 1600s named Robert Plot. This guy found a bone. He said, this is a giant human femur. This was in the 1600s, a giant human femur. And it looks exactly like a giant human femur. And I'll go over that eventually down the road. But yeah, that's what it was. For 150 years, they thought, okay, it's a giant human femur. No big deal. We know there was giants in those days. But eventually, the wiser men came along and said, no, it's not a human femur. It's a dinosaur. So they just changed the narrative to fit their narrative. But one thing I want to tie into this, because this stuff all ties together, the giants of old, the Nephilim, the unclean spirits, and Enoch, his vision about them. I've talked about this before, and somebody did a hit piece on me because they said I was saying that our Father actually didn't make camels, donkeys, and elephants. He said, oh, no. That's what he was saying. And I was not saying that. I'm saying this is a vision. And so make sure you understand, I'm not saying that these animals are demonic half-breeds, because that was the claim against me. And so therefore I'm Illuminati because of that. Something along those lines, everyone's a shill. And so that was their claim. But right here, Enoch is having a vision, and his vision is about one star falling down from heaven. And there's some other things that happen. It gets kind of graphic because, they came in unto the daughters of men, the sons of God. He's basically seeing that in a vision with a star that fell. And then he says in verse 3, I'm going to skip on here for the sake of time. And again, I saw in the vision and looked at the heavens, and behold, I saw many stars, and they fell from heaven and were thrown from heaven near the first star and among those cattle and bullocks. There they were with them, pasturing among them. And I looked at them, and behold, they all let out their members like horses and began to mount the cows. This would be like the daughters of men. Of the bullocks, all became pregnant and brought forth elephants and camels and asses. Again, this is a vision, okay? But there's 3 animals that are mentioned here: elephants, camels, and asses. Remember, these would eventually be the Nephilim, the different races of giants that would become unclean spirits. And wouldn't you know that our earliest political party symbols, the first one here, the elephant, what does it look like? Looks like the biblical earth model with inverted stars, little pentagrams in it. Then you have the donkey. Got little stars, got the one in its eye, the chief up there. And then you have the camel, which was the Prohibition Party, which I had never heard of, but it's not coincidental that Enoch's vision coincides. They know it. They know his vision. The book says at the very beginning is for the people in the last days. And there you go. They've got their people, their representation of their people in the vision right there in our political parties. And we're divided, claiming to be one of these teams. Oh, I'm the camel. I'm the, I'm the donkey. I'm an elephant. They've got us divided into animals, left versus right. They've already divided the country north versus south. Now they're left versus right, dividing and conquering, and all that chaos going on, in the world caused by these unclean spirits. And a lot of people, they doubt that account. But these unclean spirits had to be real because they were talking to the Messiah. And they knew who he was. They would have had this insight if they were around seeking this wisdom. They knew certain things. They didn't know everything. They didn't know what would happen after the crucifixion. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it. But they did foolishly because things were concealed from them. The book of Enoch talks about the Messiah being with our Father at creation, hidden, essentially behind him, hidden for a purpose, preserved to be sent for a great purpose. And it says here, when they're talking to him, this unclean spirit says, and when he was, come to the other side of the country of the Gergesenes, there met him two possessed with devils, or unclean spirits, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? They know they have a time of torment. There's a lot of them on this earth right now. They know their punishment's coming. They're not talking like, oh, are you here before, we win at Armageddon? No, they know their time of punishment is coming. They know it. They're going to try to bring people with them that don't realize that. That when they were deceiving Pharaoh, they knew they were going to lose. They knew that Pharaoh and his men and their little chariots weren't going to overtake the Most High. But that didn't stop them from going, hey, look at your chariots. That's just a big pillar of fire. Look, it's turning into a pillar of cloud. Like, you're good, go. Whatever he was convincing them, just imagine how much more so easily it will be to convince mankind now that we have stuff far greater than chariots. Now that we have fighter jets, bombs, tanks, just armored vehicles, all these things that we have. It's going to be extremely easier to convince them that, hey, you have a chance. And that's what they're going to do. And when it comes to the things that these unclean spirits are doing now with making people feel like, oh, they're not going to have access to assistance to get food and all the things that's, creating their chaos, so that then they can make order out of the chaos. Before they do that, they got to make the chaos first. And so they're doing all these things. And when you go back to the Bible and you look at what it was like with our father's ways, we wouldn't have relied on them to feed us. We fed our own. And it was part of our father's law where people fed the poor, not the people. They didn't say feed all just the people that aren't working and all that. It was the poor. When you reap your own harvest, you're working, you're planting, you're doing all this work. And they told them a very specific instruction: don't reap the corners of your field or gather the gleanings. Leave them for the poor and the foreigners. I am Yehovah, your Elohim. And so they were leaving the corners for the poor. They didn't need food stamps. They were their own support system. They didn't have to pay taxes. They didn't have 30% of their paycheck coming out. That wasn't until they got a king. They wanted a king, right? And Samuel, the prophet, says, no, this is what's going to happen. And they said, oh, we want to be like the other nations. Why would you want to be like those people who depend on their kings now? They depend on paying taxes. They have to do all these things. 10%, if I just had to give 10% of what I make, that'd be a blessing. But we're giving almost 50% when you factor, probably more when you factor in all the taxes, the land taxes, food taxes, everything. It just adds up. And it's because we didn't listen to a prophet. And back then, they wouldn't have had all this chaos because the poor didn't have enough. They can not just only go up and reap from the corners. You can keep the seeds from those plants and plant them yourself and prosper yourself if you're willing to do the work. You're not just getting a one-time deal. Our Father designed food to give seeds to those who work. All they got to do is plant it. And we've become so disconnected, it's hard to even do that because that seems like too much work to put something in the ground and let rain take over. Like, that's it. It's a crazy concept how far removed we are from a perfect system. Unfortunately, it's coming back along with the tree of life. But my goodness, that's one aspect that would help us prevent the chaos. We need to feed our own. And my wife had this idea of a blessing box in our neighborhood, because in our neighborhood, you may have some poor people in your neighborhood. We don't live in a rich, nice, fancy neighborhood, but we live in an area where we might have a chance to bless somebody. And so she said, why don't we put up a blessing box? I mean, that's very similar to this, where you're leaving the corners. You have extra food. Our house is overflowing with food. We've been so blessed with food, and it's a good thing to put some extra out aside. Just say, here, I've got too much food right here. My kids aren't going to eat this. Boom. And bless people around you. Bless the poor. Even if it's not in your own neighborhood, if you don't have anybody that can benefit there, bring it somewhere where people can. That was something that was a blessing. And then you also see in Exodus 23, this is something I missed when it came to letting the land rest. I always thought that was just for the sake of the land getting rest. But it says, 6 years thou shalt sow thy land and shall gather in the fruits thereof. But in the 7th year thou shalt let it rest and lie still, that the poor of thy people may eat. Think about that. So they have a rest year. I mean, this stuff is powerful. That our Father put in his law. We weren't dependent. Our poor people weren't dependent on a government power to turn off and turn on food stamps. Like, they were taken care of. Our Father, it was not just them, for the strangers too, people that happened to be traveling through to see the glory of a loving Father, to see, look, he's made it in his laws for people to be taken care of. And a lot of us right now are being taken care of and we don't see it. And I think it's because we've been so disconnected from our servants. We see us as being better, that we don't have biblical servants. I think, I don't have servants in my house slaving for me, plowing fields, but that's a lie. We actually do. And I was thinking about this when I was reading in the book of Psalms. I can't remember the exact verse, but it talks about him providing for his beloved even when they sleep. And I thought about that, and it humbled me, because we're all on different time zones. We have food all year. A lot of it should be out of season if it was grown native to our land, but we have it grown around the world. And so we have people, servants, growing food for us even when we sleep in foreign lands that we will never see. I will never get to shake their hand and say, thank you for planting that tree that grew the fruit that I'm eating. There's so many thousands of people who have grown the food for us, and we don't see it. We don't realize that we have servants, but we actually do. And so we are being provided for. We're being blessed. And all the end time chaos that they're trying to create, there's no verses that ever say, his people won't be provided for. His people won't be protected. We are being provided for. We are being protected. He always provided for his people. When you look at them leaving Egypt and going into Egypt, why were they even brought into Egypt in the first place? So that they could be provided for. There were preparations made for them. And so there's a lot going on in the world, and I wanted to share some of those things because they're just so powerful in what they're bringing to light, with how these unclean spirits are at work, and how even our own country, with its great seal, they call it, is based on Roman poetry that's about bringing about a new age, and not for our Father, but for their deities, Saturn and Apollo, things mentioned in Revelation, I believe. And so it's dark stuff, but you have to talk about this dark stuff so people can see exactly what it is, not sit there and focus on it all the time. I don't want that to be the focus of what we do here. But yeah, it's a lot of dark stuff. And so when you're seeing stuff in the news about fake space, things like, going to Mars, it's never about actually going there. It's more about going back to their god of war and things like that. They want the chaos. They want the war. Mars was one of their chief Roman deities, up there with Jupiter. And that's why we have a Capitol in DC, why it's called the Capitol Hill. It's based on Capitoline Hill, which was Jupiter's hill in Rome. Every state that I know of has a capital, and the word capital comes directly from Capitoline Hill, which was Jupiter's hill. And it's very, very demonic. Even the name of that deity they've taken and tried to attribute to our Father's name. And I've done a video on that. I don't want to get into that in this video because that's a long story. But you can check that out, man. It's some really dark stuff. And, Mars, we have an entire month named after this deity. What's his name? What's the name of the month named after Mars? It looks a lot like Bell in the statues. It's March. March is named after Mars. Mars was a god of war. And the military, they had a military auxiliary radio system called Mars, interestingly enough. And when you join the military, guess what? What do? Every branch of the military, what do? Remember, there's a month named after this deity, March. You march. Every branch of the military marches. Very, 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 very interesting and sad that they do that. Fundamental part, giving tribute to the god of war. And not that people in the military are actually worshiping these deities. They don't know. They're following the script that was handed to them from people who created this demonic stuff. And, in their statues, it's always left foot forward. How do you start your marches? You always start going left foot forward. Think about that. Very, 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 very dark stuff. Just put in just mainstream everything. Mars, there's a replica of Mars right there. The Mars's temple. You can see this. We've talked about this stuff before, but just showing you guys who may have never seen this or may not have a chance to go back to those videos. Temple of Mars, the U.S. Treasury. Look at the number of pillars. It's exactly the same. Exactly the same. The Supreme Court, the Archives of the USA, the U.S. Capitol building, the Capitol, the one that attributed to Jupiter. Yeah, dark, dark stuff. So I just wanted to bring some of this stuff up because it is in their plans. Someone who knew the plans, a man named Von Braun, who told us their final card was a threat from above, an alien threat. Final card was going to be the alien threat. Imagine that. If you're trying to prepare people to war against something above you, why not send a fake alien threat? You've got the 3-Eye Atlas thing having everybody in fear, and you have UFOs and all this stuff being cited lately in the non-human biologics. How about have them come here and say, guys, there's a threat coming after us. It's so scary. We got to unite. We got to be peaceful and fight against it. That's why they have the Artemis Accords. Peaceful uniting against things, threats, with space and above and all that. So they have their treaties and everything in place. It's all geared towards these end times. They literally just had the Operation Steadfast Defender, where they had 90,000, I believe, I could be wrong, troops and people from all the NATO forces coming together in the area near Armageddon to do a little rehearsal for a near-peer threat. I have never heard that language before. Near-peer threat. And so, yeah, dark, dark stuff. I don't like to focus too much on it. I have a lot of stuff in the presentation that I've compiled over the years with all this stuff. America first. Now, we're supposed to keep our father first, but now we're keeping America first. Getting an American Pope now. We finally have an American Pope. This seems like it's straight out of Revelation. Pope Robert Francis. His name means bright fame and a free man. Imagine that. Prevost is a person in charge and donated a high-ranking official, particularly in the military. These things can't write this stuff. This is stuff straight out of, their scripted story here. And man, this guy, can't say enough about these people, but I think he excused someone who did some things, we'll just say, to children, and that's our new pope. Someone who said it's okay for this guy to reside around children after he did something to children. The same dark stuff they've been doing for years and years and years. Extremely sad. But yeah, I'll quit talking about this stuff. There's just so much further we could dive into all these things. But I just wanted to bring clarity to a lot of the end time stuff that's going on now. It is end time stuff because Revelation is going to come true, and they are preparing for it. I think we should be living as if we are preparing for it to come true as well, because they are trying to bring about the deceptions, and have already brought about deceptions that play into the threat from above. And I know a lot of people don't agree with me on where we are in time, but that's a whole different topic of discussion. But yeah, definitely need to understand where we are in time. Somebody said, "Oh, is this?" I'm gonna read this. What else? When you join the military, raise your right hand and give an oath. Do you really have to do that in the military? I've never joined. My dad was in the military, but I didn't hear about that. That'd be interesting. I know when they get sworn into office of presidency, they do that. So I'm sure it's the same with everything else. On a book that says don't swear, put your hand on this and swear. Put your right hand in the air. Yeah. Well, awesome conversation talking to you guys. If you joined us late, talking about where we just came from with Truth or Con, the conference in Texas. It was amazing. It was a blessing. And so hopefully they'll let us share that footage here. If not, I'll have to redo the presentation, and I'll probably do it live and maybe break it into like 2 or 3 parts, because it is a 45-minute presentation if I give you the Cliff Notes version, but I wanted to go in really in greater depth and possibly break it up, because when I tried going over it myself, it was a challenge. It ended up being like over an hour and like 10, it was almost like an hour and 10 minutes. So I was like, that's too long. So I may break it up into 2 videos and go over it, because some of the stuff we talked about on here about the Nephilim is in that, as well as where the demonic lies come from that are forced on our children. That's why we stepped out of public school settings. We were teaching biology, or I was teaching biology. My brother was teaching math, and we've stepped out. I stepped out first last year and started Creation Standard. And my sister made me a shirt that I wore to the conference. See if I can show you guys. Creation Standard shirt here that my sister made. Emily, if you're watching, she's probably not watching. But prove all things. We got the little shield here for our students. I'm going to try to let them get a hold of that so they can buy them some awesome shirts to spread awareness. Creation Standard Awareness Year right here. The last days have our Father uniting his true soldiers. We have people around the world joining us every week to learn about our Father's provable truth of creation, debunking the heliocentric nonsense that we've talked about many times, as well as the lies of evolution, even lies about DNA. I took down our last video. We did a video about DNA where I was saying that a cubic millimeter is like 1,000 terabytes of data. And we mapped it out. If you map out how much DNA you have in your body, what does that equate to? And it was like enough, you would need enough power to power a city. And I found out I was wrong about that. It's not 1,000 terabytes. They're now saying it's 1,000,000 terabytes. And they say that's just a number, that the amount of data that it would require for your body to house, in your entire body. If you're to convert that to a computer system, storage system, there's no facility. All the facilities in the world couldn't house as much information as our genetic, even if we even if we filled up the entire world with data centers. So it's incredible. I had to take that video down because I was like, I don't want to remove from his glory. I know they've already lied about things with DNA before, and the whole central dogma of DNA is a lie. Found that out last year with Creation Standard. The idea that DNA makes RNA and makes proteins, total fabricated lie. Like, no one even discovered DNA in the first place. Its shape, like, no one's ever seen the shape of DNA ever. And so to say that somebody discovered it, members of the Royal Society discovering it, is a lie. And so we have to really be careful when we're talking about things, because they're designed to take glory away from our Creator, who made something that man can't replicate. They can only modify and corrupt it, and that's what they were doing before the flood, and that's what they are doing as we speak. They've made it legal to make human chimeras, and they have made them. They've already made them. They've brought back the dire wolf, they say, when really they just modified genetic material from a gray wolf and said it was a dire wolf. They naming them Romulus and Remus. Think about that. There was another one too, Khaleesi, the lady who's framed with a dragon in a show, and the founders of Rome, or I guess Romulus was the founder of Rome. His dad was Mars. It all ties into this stuff. It's all connected. Yeah, and clones. Yeah, they're gonna be doing cloning again, I'm sure. And according to an alien religion, they made a clone back in like 2002. Did you guys hear about that? I didn't even know. And that was when I was researching our Father's name, is when I found that out, because they claim these people, this guy was abducted and he was brought to their leader, and their leader was named Yahweh. Think about that. And he gave him this information, and it's not about like a creator coming back. It's about technology. And so they're trying to get things set up with and play a part with the third temple. And this guy's some sort of prophet, and that's when I found out about the name Yahweh, where that actually comes from. Again, not insult. It's not actually the name of a false deity, but it's very close. And so if you're saying that name, it doesn't mean you're saying the name of a false deity. It just means it's close, because the original pronunciation of Jupiter was Yahweh Patur, I think is what it was. And so very, very close. And then you have Yahweh coming into existence, that name from the Tetragrammaton, I think in the 1600s, from a Roman Catholic and somebody who's kind of like atheistic. And so, yeah, interesting stuff though. Yeah. Oh, you said I share your name on the vid, your vid on the name all the time. Thank you. Yeah. I had shared that stuff, and man, it was just on my heart. Like, you have to share this. And my wife was telling me, you need to share that. So That's a video to look at. One of our more recent videos, I'd say within the last 10 videos or so, our Father's name. If you want to look into that topic, so much important stuff with his name. And again, I'm not a person who's going to say you're doomed if you said his name wrong. You know, a lot of people come at me like, oh, you're saying the name wrong. Like, I've had miracles happen when I pronounced the name wrong. I've had miracles happen before I knew our Father had a name and how it was pronounced. It's about seeking him with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul. Getting a name exactly right, I don't think is going to be the breaker. And they're not going to be like, ooh, he used the wrong vowel sound here, and yep, to the lake of fire. It's not going to be that way. It's going to be different. So yeah, look into that stuff. Though I do believe it's important, but yeah, not going to be doomed if you've been pronouncing it wrong. Yeah, awesome. Well, you guys are the best. It sounds like I may have to be getting the young ones ready for bed soon. They have gotten addicted to bedtime story time. And so I try to keep it biblical. It's hard making your stories intertwined with like biblical concepts, but it's really good because your children, they'll see that, you know, they'll understand. You can connect it and say, you know, tie it into Revelation, tie it into this stuff, make it exciting, make the Bible fun for them. It's kind of cool. But yeah, you guys are the best. It's good seeing Tyler Porter. Good to see you, Tyler. I was hoping to see so many more of you at the conference, but we got to see some great ones there. Some people that I have yet to meet that I've known about on social media for years. So definitely great to see everybody. Got to see Brandon Lavelle. He's been on our channel before. He had a Biblical Earth song he shared. Really cool to meet him. And Tracy Jones. I got to meet Tracy Jones, the legendary Tracy Jones, in person. She's real. Hopefully I'll get to meet a lot of you guys next time. I got invited back, or you can come this way if you're ever coming south. I guess if you're north of me, if you're in the U.S. and you're north going south, reach out to us because we are on the Tennessee-Georgia line. If people go to Florida, if you're going to Florida from up north and you pass by Georgia, give us a call or a message. Send us a message. I'd love to meet you guys. Something that's 100% in the Bible is out of control. Yeah. UFO talk and biblical knowledge. I'm in here. So I'm reading some of your comments, trying to see what we got. But yeah, I know this was the last minute. I try to plan live events sooner so you guys can get notified. Make sure you do click the bell when we did our little survey to see how many people are notified for our stuff. See if I can find it here. It might put up a video when I post. There it is. The survey says, my question to you guys was, about being notified, and 74% of our subscribers said I'm not notified at all and have to come back to check for myself. Like you have to come back and see, am I still subscribed? 74%. And so we have noticed like YouTube shut down worldwide for a while. Everything's kind of shutting down and then coming back on. And I think it's because they're getting ready to help further censor the truth. Their end time deceptions require them to further censor the truth. They've practiced with it. They did that with biblical cosmology first, and then with certain topics that I still can't talk about. And so it's going to probably heighten, I'm assuming, with the next things that happen. And so there you go. No glory. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for your time. You guys are taking time to fellowship with us, and the things that you share with me do impact me. You know, whether it's love, whether it's hate, it does have an impact. Fortunately, the love aspect is more impactful because in the wisdom that you share has led to a lot of understandings that I now have that I would not have had if you guys weren't brought our direction and sharing things, because I do try my best to read what you're saying as much as I can. Said someone said like this right here. I just saw a comment say, do you all have a local Torah fellowship? Maybe I asked before. We just have one online that we do with our supporters and whoever they invite, you know, if you're a supporter. And the reason I do that is because I've had non-supporters come in, and it's usually to divide. And that's not everybody. I'm not saying everybody does that, but I've had that happen. And I cannot stand drama, and I can't stand people who are divisive and not humble. So we try to stay with supporters. They're humble. All of our patrons. If you are a patron and you're not on our email list, please let me know. I try to keep everyone who's a supporter or donated on our email list so that you can join our fellowships. But as far as local fellowships, the closest one that we have that we've gone to is in Alabama. It's 2 hours away. And so we don't go very often. Assembly of Yahweh in North Alabama. Steve Martin is amazing. He's an awesome brother who has taught me a lot. He's a real good guy. And so he's a good one to look into. If you haven't, he was a former Baptist preacher who actually changed his ways many, many years ago and has since been doing his thing. How many months do I think we have? That's a good question. Until the digital ID is required. I think it's soon. All of the evil stuff that we have, all the doctrines of demons, seem to have come out of the UK, which I'm finding out is a province of Rome, or sorry, was a province of Rome before it became the UK. And so evolution, old Earth, dinosaurs, all that came from the UK. And so I know that if you can see a pattern of things coming out of a certain place, and it's a United Kingdom, and they're now rolling out that stuff, it's just a matter of time. I mean, this time next year, maybe. I don't know. You saw how fast things could change with the planned demic. Trying to break it up to where it doesn't get caught. You guys saw how fast that rolled out. That was within like a week. It's like, oh, everything's changed real quick, real fast. Nobody had a say over anything. And the world powers agreed peacefully, and the ones who didn't were no longer alive. And so the way they talk about it, I feel like it's going to be soon, and it has to be for the events to unfold, for them to be able to cut things off and on, like the people that they were feeding, with the SNAP benefits, EBT, food stamps. They turn that off pretty quick. They're really good at turning off things that put out money, but I guarantee the things that take money, like tax money, that's never shut down. That's always a fine-tuned machine taking your money out of your paycheck. Why didn't that department shut down? You're still losing your 30% every month. If you're in my state, at least, I know that's about what it is. But yeah. Good questions, you guys. Good questions. I'm hoping to have like a call-in show or hang out one time where you guys can actually call in and share your thoughts, almost like a virtual meetup, I guess we could call it. That'd be good. If you guys want to do something like that, let me know. That'd be fun. A virtual meetup, and if it gets and you want to get uncensored, we can try to maybe find a different way of doing it outside of YouTube, especially, so we don't have to censor ourselves when we talk. But yeah, awesome, guys. Thanks so much for joining. Again, I was starting to end earlier, but you guys asked good questions, and I feel like I haven't seen you guys in forever. It's been a while. Yeah, looking to relocate. Come this way. Just kidding. Go where you are led to go. Our Father is leading his people all sorts of different directions together. Coming together, his people. Oh, look who we got right here. Awesome. Hannah noticed that I got to meet them the coming day. I got to meet two of my lovely students and their mother at a gathering they had, a Feast of Tabernacle gathering nearby. So great to see them. Humble Truth Soldiers, I'm telling you, the best of the best. I'm too blessed with the company that I have, even in my own house and then outside this house. I mean, it's something I'm thankful for, that he has brought his most precious children, you guys included, into our fellowship. And we have to remember how grateful we are to have each other and not bicker about little disagreements of scripture and really study it out, iron sharpening iron aspect, because we are blessed to have each other on this platform, even though I know it's just the enemy's platform, so to speak, and everything's becoming overran by AI. We need to be thankful that we have what we have while we have it, this fellowship, because it may not be this way very long, especially when things really start getting more serious. There you go. Somebody said, "How was TruthCon, dude?" You missed it. It was awesome. It was beyond a blessing. I mean, just speaking in front of people makes me nervous. Like going live usually makes me nervous. Speaking in front of people really terrifies me. But the Spirit was there. I felt so at peace talking in front of these people that I forget that I was on stage. Like I was like, wow, it's easier than rehearsing a speech. It was such a blessing. And so definitely thankful to our Father for guiding them to put that together. I know everybody expects Jeremiah Skiba to be Rob Skiba 2.0 and be exactly like he is, but remember, he's his son. And like my sons, they don't know everything that I know, but my prayer is that they will learn. And I think with Jeremiah, he's a young man, and he's doing his best. And it humbles me to see his work ethic and his desire to try and get to that level. And it'll take time. We got to be patient. He's seeking truth. And I think everybody expects somebody like him, who's literally just lost his mother and his father back to back in such a heartbreaking fashion, to to be on point with everything his dad taught. When my own children, I know they don't watch my videos. They're probably not tuning in live right now watching my videos. And so, but meeting him in person was a blessing, because he's the son of the man who our father used to bring me here. And so it was a blessing to be a blessing to him, because that was my goal, is I want to be a blessing to the son of the one who brought me here, and hopefully broaden his understandings and just uplift him, because I know he's fresh out of losing his mother, the last of his two parents, So, but the fact that he's persevering and pushing on, and seeing his wife working, and Jake and his wife working, and volunteers. There was a volunteer lady there who kind of helped coordinate this stuff with all of us, named Kristen. She has 11 children and she's doing this stuff, volunteering. Like, wow. So yeah, definitely a blessed encounter and experience altogether. All the hate that it got was unwarranted, because there was no shield networking and all the things that people were saying was going to happen. It was just humble people coming together, sharing truth, and receptive people, people that were questioning what we were saying, at the same time. They're not just like, I believe you because you're on a stage, just good, humble truth seekers like yourselves. So yeah, good times. But again, I've been saying goodbye for a while now, but every time I see your questions, I want to react. But yeah, awesome. Some of these comments, yeah. Some of these comments make me want to keep reacting, but I know I got to go. I want to keep talking to you guys, but I'll be back. I will try to definitely be back soon, talking about these important end time issues. Where we're at in time is a big deal. As much as the hate as I get talking about that stuff, I keep feeling like led to talk about it, because there's so much confusion being caused right now. There's a lot of personalities on the internet who are very persuasive and can ignore prophecy, but know just enough to be dangerous, and put out some flashy videos and things that really get people falling for lies. And so I try to avoid doing that. I would rather die than be a false teacher. And so I will try to make sure you are fully prayed up before you speak and share, that you are fully in tune with what the Spirit's saying. Because I hear so many people say, the Spirit told me this, and I'm like, it goes against prophecy. The Spirit's not going to go against the prophets, so be careful out there before you start putting thoughts out there. Really do pray. And like Peter said, be mindful of what the prophets are saying, and understand how our Father measured time when he was talking to, especially when he was talking to Adam and said, you're going to die that day. How long Adam lived is significant. He died that literal day compared to the way our Father measured time going after creation. Creation was 6 literal days. I know that. But the way it was prophetic, being the generations of the heavens and the earth, like it says in chapter 2, when they were made, is a big deal. So yeah, we will be back soon. Thanks for your patience as we work and travel and labor and do all these things. Coming back to unite with you guys is a blessing. Guys, some of you I've seen have been here since like we started. That blows my mind. Since like 2017, when our Father was pouring out these truths, and we were just compiling as fast as we could and sharing low quality videos way back then too. But thanks guys for being patient with us and being loving. And if you don't like what we say, still, send us advice, send us things, like, hey, here's why you're wrong. And I've been corrected by you guys before. I'm not above correction. So, and I've edited out videos where I've misspoken or deleted them entirely, where you guys have said, hey, you said this, you were wrong. So feel free to give us criticism, just be kind. We'll try to be kind as well. But you guys are the best. Good to see you again, Antonio. We love you guys. The Father loves you. You all are beloved creations of the Most High, and we will see you guys. Have you been working overtime to protect your children from all the lies, indoctrination, and agendas, only to find out that the stuff is everywhere? If so, you're not alone. There are countless truth soldiers out there who are enduring the same battle you are, and there's something we can do. And we're not here to hand out blindfolds to everybody so we can protect all of our children. We are here to give them a strong foundation, one that is based on proving all things and using earth and life science, as well as math and biblical history, to prove that our Father's words are the truth. It's a scientific journey. You have 2 teachers joining with lots of experience, and this journey is one that will be live and interactive for multiple time zones around the world, where children are logging in to learn and explore our Father's intelligent design, as well as what this world actually is compared to what they say it is. It's a life-changing experience, and it will provide you and your children with a foundation that the lies cannot break apart. And if this sounds like something you're interested in, go to CreationStandard.com, check out our course information, and register today so that you don't miss out on this incredible journey as we replace the indoctrination with our Father's provable truth of creation at CreationStandard.com.